Good morning and welcome. You're listening live to Heart-to-Heart, a program that aims to help you understand and to become your loving self. I'm Dr. Mitra Rashidian. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, a certified sexologist in full-time private practice in beautiful Encino, California. And I'd like to welcome you to KMET 1490 AM ABC News Radio, live Heart-to-Heart program. And I'm here with my best friend, my business partner, and my colleague, Dr. Robert Jaffe.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
And of course, Jesse, our director here.
Our helper, without whose help we couldn't do this.
Yes.
So we are here today to talk about addictions, trauma, relationships, and codependence. And the whole idea of that is to help people reconnect to their loving, authentic, true selves. We say that we are born into the world, the vast majority of us, I'm not going to say everyone, but vast majority of us are born into the world as our loving, authentic, true selves. And we come in with many qualities, a few of which are we come in open to learning, open to new things. We come in curious. We're curious about ourselves, curious about others, and curious about the world. We come in honest. So when we see something, as we learn how to speak, we comment on it. We comment on the things that we see outside of us, and we comment on what's going on inside of us. And we're honest about that, at least at the beginning. So we have to learn how to lie.
Until we learn how to lie.
We have to learn until we learn how to lie, right. We all come in as sexual beings, and that means that we have a sexual energy. We have both male and female energy. It doesn't really matter whether we're born physiologically as a male or female. We have both male and female. They say yin and yang, yin being female, yang being male. So we have that kind of energy inside of us. And we all come in trusting. We come in trusting that the world is going to say hello in a nice way and give us what we need. We also have other capacities. We have the ability to be emotionally available to other people. To let ourselves rely on other people, and to have other people rely on us. We have the ability to be calm. We can calm ourselves. We can learn how to self-soothe. And we have many other abilities that we sort of take for granted. We don't recognize them. So it's very important to recognize that these are things that we carry with us, and that if we wish, we can access those things at any time and create, the goal of which, of course, is to create more love in our lives. And the more loving we are, because we are energy, we're energetic creatures, the more love we give to other people and to the world. We know now that energy isn't created or destroyed. It simply changes form. So if you think of energy as water, water contains within it energy, and it can change form. So when the sun shines down on the water, it heats the water. Water goes into a mist. It comes into the air. You can't see it, but the water vapor is still there. It goes up into the sky, and then when enough of it is there, it coalesces. It draws together. It forms clouds. Clouds are water, but they're not solid water. It's water energy. And when the clouds become heavy enough, then they rain down on us. Depending upon the region that it's raining down on, it either becomes rain, or it can become sleet, or it can become snow, or it can become hail. And all of that is water, and it appears different, right? Snow does not appear as water. Hail does not appear as water, but it is water nonetheless. And so what we are energy, just like the water. And we now know that if you look through an electron microscope, which actually you can look at anything that appears solid, such as our body. Our body appears solid, such as the desk here, such as the paper that I'm holding. If you look at an electron microscope, what you see is molecules. The molecules are moving. And if you look even deeper, you see atoms. And the atoms are moving very quickly. The center of the atom is proton and neutron, and those are particles that actually aren't solid. And then around it goes electrons, and those aren't solid either. And these subatomic particles blink in and out of existence millions of times per second to give the appearance of solidity. And so none of what we see in the world is actually as we see it. At the subatomic level, it's really energy that's moving very, very quickly that gives the appearance of solidity. And why is this important? Why am I talking about it? I'm talking about it because since we are energy, we vibrate at a certain frequency. And if we're happy, we're vibrating at one frequency. If we're sad, we're vibrating at another. If we're fearful, we're vibrating at another. And all of those vibrations, which are energy, are picked up by other people around us, and they feel our energy, and they are influenced by our energy. So other people don't make us feel something, but they can influence us.
Exactly. I mean, I'm listening to you, I went back to high school and early college, and I picture my teachers, and I said, oh boy, are they going to test me now?
Yeah, listen carefully, because there's going to be a test coming up.
But you're right. I mean, we think that the education we received, at high school has that related to what we're talking about, but that's exactly it. We're not apart from the law of the universe.
Right. Yes. And the sun is energy, right? And of course, the earth can't sustain life without the sun. But the sun isn't solid either.
Right.
The sun is it's energy that is so powerful that it gives the appearance of solidity when you look at it, but it's not solid.
Exactly.
Right. And when the sun warms the whole solar system. So we have the choice to vibrate our energy at a high level which is love. And that energy, when we vibrate and we are feeling love and we're feeling loving, that energy affects the people around us the most profoundly. But it also, because energy goes out into the universe and there's no beginning or end, it affects others as well. And so the people who have the greatest amount of love and the greatest amount of conscious love energy to give affect the most number of people. So, and this is something that I'm saying, not actually, it's not even a theory, it's what we've learned scientifically. But of course, people on a day-to-day level don't think about that. But I'm saying it because we have the power of choice as human beings. And how we choose to feel has a lot to do with what we choose to focus on.
Right.
And we have the ability to focus on anything we wish. And if we're focusing on something that we enjoy or that we like I'm going to go see my daughter, my son-in-law, and my grandkids this weekend, and I'm going to be vibrating at a very high frequency of love, they will feel that, and I want them to feel that, and my love for them is so strong, and I feel it so much that they enjoy me being around because they can feel it, and I can feel theirs. So when we're in relationships, we can focus on what we like, what we appreciate, what we honor, what we respect about the other person, or we can focus on the things that we think of as flaws, and that makes us feel dissatisfied, and then we vibrate at a different frequency, the person next to us, our lover or child, feels that energy, and certainly a child who feels the energy most strongly because they don't have the capacity to think in a way that adults think. They can't filter as well as adults can filter. The child is going to feel negative energy, not know that it doesn't belong to them, and they're going to take it on as theirs.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes. So, I mean, so we see that, everything that happens to us, a part of it is the environment that we live in and how environment influences us, and then how we process that for ourselves, and how our brain function and everything else, the law of physics, the law of nature, the law of chemistry, and all of that, everything is involved. So it is important. So knowing that, some people decide to do, self-care and never see a professional for their, anxiety or depression and addictions. They think they can go ahead and, take care of that on their own. We see family members who do that. We can take care of our own problems. We don't need anybody else to interfere in our business and all of that. But we see that it's a much bigger force, right? It's a force that really needs an expert, intervention so that, things can be changed and appropriately, and awareness needs to be widened, and people need to be aware of how these situations are happening, what elements, what components, what situations are involved, what triggers their situation, so that they can do something about it. People have a tendency of kind of downsizing the issues. But oh, this is nothing, I know what to do, I'm in charge of myself and all of that. But that's great, we want that actually to be in place, right? But then again, there is no surgeon in the world who could do surgery on themselves.
Yeah.
We can take a piece of glass maybe, or something really minor that's gone into our skin out ourselves, maybe to a degree. But that's as far as we can do with our mental health as well.
Right. Yes. So what you're saying is that we need each other.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we need each other.
Yes.
There aren't too many people who know how to build a house.
Right.
There are some, but not most people don't know how to build a house.
And even if they do, they can't do it by themselves.
Yeah. And of course, anything that we do, making our own clothing, making our own food from scratch, those are all things that are learned. People can learn how to do them, but mostly we rely on other people to do these things. Yeah.
Yes. So let's talk about them after our commercial break.
Let's do that.
Right.
Okay.
We just got the signal that we need to stop.
Well, we're going to stop and then we're going to start. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Welcome back from our commercial break. Dr. Mitra and Dr. Robert here at Heart-to-Heart program, KMET 1490 AM ABC News Radio. The topic of our discussion for this morning is about relationship addictions, trauma, and codependency. But so far we have been talking about atoms and neurons and chemistry and physics and how they are related to what we call related to our topics. So I'd like to, we both, Dr. Robert and myself, would like to invite you to join us. Call us, please, at 951-922-3532. You can also visit us at our Facebook, Heart-to-Heart. And we'd like to hear about, your questions, your comments, what's important to you, if you have had any related experiences. Your stories are powerful tools that we need to have, so that we can learn from each other. Your experience teaches us something new, and then once we discuss that new finding and all of that, many other people, they can benefit from this. So your contribution is important, is valued, and we appreciate that. Our phone number again, 951-922-3532. Dr. Roberts.
Yes. So we've been talking about energy and about how everything is composed of energy, including us, that we are composed of energy, and we are energy. And it's energy shaped by consciousness, meaning that our awareness determines the kind of energy that we are creating at that moment. And so what people do often is they label people, and when they label people, they make the person smaller than that person actually is. People are much too much too complicated and complex to fit into any kind of label, but we do that to simplify things. But often those labels get in our way. So what do I mean by that? So a label, if you label somebody careless, if you label somebody worthless, if you label somebody stupid, if you label somebody talented, those all bring up different thoughts and feelings inside of you, and whatever label you put on yourself or you put on anyone else is not paying attention to the whole person.
I actually, what you said reminded me of a client that I have. This client, he's an adult, a very successful businessman, and he's just brilliant, right? However, he can never feel happy about his accomplishments, and he always thinks that either he got lucky or, he must have done something not illegal, but he hasn't been honest with the process of his achievement. So in other words, and then when we trace back this, we learned that when he was 5, 6, 7, all the way to the age of 10, and to a degree beyond that, his father, used to call him, what a thief you are, you have this mind that is knows how to manipulate. Yeah, what a manipulative mind you have, right? So instead of telling him how talented he is, he was told how manipulative he is. Right. And he has been operating from that manipulative perspective about himself, believing that he's a manipulative person, right? Where in fact he's a very talented person, right? And then when we discussed that, he was shocked about how he associated his talents with manipulation. Right.
Yeah, and of course that is what goes on in psychotherapy.
Right.
Which is the beliefs that we carry. And usually the beliefs start all the way back in childhood. The beliefs that we carry, both positive and negative, have never been examined.
Right.
And so we make the assumption that those beliefs are true, and then when we assume something is true, we act in accordance with it, right? If I assume there's a wall here, I'm not going to walk into it, right? And could I be wrong that there's a wall here? I could be wrong, yeah, because I don't know if I'm awake maybe, or I'm dreaming it, or I'm imagining it. Whatever I'm doing, I'm believing it. And our beliefs shape our emotions, and they shape our behaviors, and they shape our interactions. So, for example, I may have a strong belief about women because my mother and my sister, or my mother and the women in my life, all appeared to me to be controlling. So then I will assume that all women want to control me, and then I will set up the development of my personality accordingly. I either may allow that to happen, or I may fight it. But the idea is that they're all trying to control me, and so the best that I can do is to respond to it or react to it as though it's always going to be true. And of course, it isn't always true. But if I'm believing it's always true, then it's going to shape how I deal with women. And that's true with everybody, right? We all have beliefs, and we assume that those beliefs are true, and those beliefs inform how we behave, and also even who we take into our lives. So I may I may have a belief that all attractive women rely just on their looks, and they don't develop themselves. And then so I'll say to myself, so I don't want to be with a woman who just looks good but doesn't have any substance to her. So therefore I can't be with an attractive woman. So I may find somebody who's unattractive, for example, because I think, oh, well, this woman has to work on developing herself because she can't rely on her looks. And that's just an assumption on my part. It's a belief, and I act on it. And therefore that's how my life turns out. These are just a couple of examples of beliefs that we have. And how is this related to addictions, and how is this related to codependence?
Well, for example, when somebody grows up with a belief, with a negative about themselves, and ultimately, feeling not good enough, and that's, impacting their self-esteem and self-worth, right, to say the least. Right?
Mm-hmm.
We look for an avenue. We look for an outlet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. So addictions come from, in general, and this is what I have found. And I worked in an addictions recovery center for 24 years. And what I found is addictions come from emotional pain that hasn't been resolved, and so the person is not aware that they're carrying emotional pain, but they do feel anxious, or they feel uncomfortable, or they feel depressed, and they're not happy. Let's just put it that way. They're not happy. But when they find something that quote gets them out of that negative feeling state, and that thing can be either drugs or alcohol. It can be sex. It can be gambling. And it can also be food. And a lot of people have food issues and are addicted to food. And the taste of the food and the feeling of the fullness that the food gives them gets them in a more comfortable state. But again, all these addictions are temporary, because go ahead.
People get addicted to each other.
They what?
They get addicted to each other.
Well, they get addicted to each other. Yeah, they get it, and so those are addictions where you're trying to escape a negative feeling state, and you get into a feeling state that's more comfortable or euphoric. And I was talking with a gentleman, a client, the other day. And he was talking about how he likes to use drugs because it's fun. And I say, yeah, it's fun because the drugs make you euphoric, and they make you feel better temporarily. But I said to him, euphoria is not the same as happiness. And he was like, what? And I said, yeah, euphoria is not the same as happiness. It's a different feeling state, and it may be a better feeling state than the feeling state that you have without the euphoria, but it's not the same as happiness. That you can be very happy without euphoric. But when you're euphoric, you're just euphoric. You're in an altered state, but it's not happiness.
And it goes away.
And it goes away.
Yeah.
So then you have to keep you becoming euphoric in order to feel good. And I said, and your brain is designed to give you feel good chemicals. They call them endorphins, and those feel good chemicals, when you know how to work your brain and you know how to utilize your brain, can help you to feel authentically happy. And then you don't have the problem of not feeling good and then temporarily getting relief from it and then having to go back and forth.
I do have clients that they use marijuana occasionally because they want that feeling that it gives them, even if it is temporarily, and they don't believe that that's addiction. They don't believe that, it will make them, actually get them to the addictive, habits if they're not yet addicted to that.
Right.
They believe that they can stop anytime they want. But you and I know better.
Well, yeah, I actually don't want to say that as a label, because there are people who can have a drink occasionally.
Occasionally, yes.
And there are people who could smoke marijuana occasionally. And there are people who can smoke cigarettes occasionally.
But how do we define occasionally?
Well, yeah, again,
it's 4 times per week occasional. It's 3 times per week occasional.
Right. No, exactly. Yeah. And you're making a really good point. I'm just saying, I don't want to give the impression that if you use marijuana, you're an addict.
No, but if your happiness depends on that joint, then there may be questionable.
No, I agree with that.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. If you're not able to feel euphoric or happy, unless you use, marijuana, then I question that.
Yes, and of course, if you're not feeling happy, you're more likely to use the marijuana more than occasionally.
Exactly.
Right, because you like that feeling,
right,
and you don't know how to create a positive feeling state within yourself without using the drug.
Right, and to our surprise, we see that people who are in the business of helping people, like healthcare professionals, we see an increase of marijuana use.
Right.
In them.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And but I don't want to just be talking about marijuana. I want to be talking about addictions and codependency, and the fact that we use them in order to change our feeling state, but we don't need to change our feeling state if we're happy and if we're content. And people don't recognize that. Because we sort of feel like anything that does it for me, that gives me some good feeling, is okay. And it's not that we're saying it's not okay. What we're saying is it's a different thing to use a substance and get a temporary feeling of relief or a temporary feeling of euphoria than to learn how to use your mind to focus on the things that you love and the people that you love and the things in your life that you love that create the endorphins, and that's more long lasting, and that's a more permanent change. But what prevents us from doing that?
Right.
And what prevents us is usually what we would call stress, but also we would call it, sometimes it's what we call trauma. And I think we've been talking a little bit about the small t and the large t. Do you want to expand on the small t and the large t?
Well, we know that, traditionally we looked at trauma as things, concepts such as, earthquake, large earthquakes. That, like those of you who are in California, you remember Northridge earthquake, right? Or Whittier earthquake. I remember both because I was, I experienced them both. And then that's something I don't want to experience again, right? Growing up, I did face a few minor earthquakes, but they were nothing compared to, for example, Northridge earthquake, right? So that's a large T trauma, right?
Yes.
Car accidents, or last night on my way home, I saw this biker who, crashed and he apparently was in a very bad shape, and paramedics, had to show up to intervene and to help him out and take him to the hospital. So for that person, that's a major trauma.
Yes.
Right? Or, when there are other natural disasters, or rape is a major trauma, or losing a loved one, so these are things that kind of are not replaceable, right? But then again, when we grow up, we have other forms of traumas that we don't pay attention to, but they are the effect of that pervasively, haunts us, and also they also continue to appear, right? So, I mean, we talked about labeling children, right?
Right.
Bullying each other, or growing up with negative feelings and negative emotions, and receiving negative messages from our parents, and they continue across life. They are pervasive small t traumas.
Small t traumas.
So let's talk about this more after our commercial break, because we just received a notice from our technical director, Jesse.
And remember, all you need is love, and we'll see you in a couple of minutes. Bye.
Welcome back from our commercial break. This is Heart-to-Heart program at KMET 1490 AM. ABC News Radio, Dr. Mitra and Dr. Robert here talking about some of the aspects of life that can lead to addictions, right? Lead us to addiction. And we were talking about small t and large t traumas.
We were.
Right.
We were. And you had just eloquently explained the large t, and you were talking about the small t. And the small t traumas, as you were saying, are slights and insults that happen to us throughout life, but are, of course, the most damaging when they happen to us in childhood.
Exactly. I mean, the children, as they grow up, some of them, they have developmental issues that they are pervasive, and they haunt them for the rest of their life, such as autism, right? So I want to compare that, use the same concept so that our listeners and viewers can understand when we say pervasive traumas, what exactly that means. So it's exactly the same thing, right? The symptoms of autism, they don't go away. They can be controlled. The symptoms of, many childhood, developmental problems, they don't go away, but they can be controlled, right? And some they can't.
Right.
So it's the same thing with the small t traumas. So small t traumas, depending, even the order of birth can become a trauma for a child, because of how they are treated with siblings, how they are treated with parents, grandparents, and close people around them, the messages they receive about themselves, right? The way their lifestyle has been, the way their educational system has been. Each one of them can leave an everlasting mark on the child's psyche, right?
Yes.
And we believe, and we grow up around those messages, and then we form our beliefs, we form our perception, we form our thoughts and experience associated feelings, and we start to believe that that's my world, that's the real world, and that's how the system is, and that's how my life is designed to be. So ultimately, at the end of the day, we don't feel good about ourselves, right?
Right.
We may have many accomplishments, but at the end of the day, when we go home, we go to that lonely mindset that we have designed for ourselves. And everything else, I mean, it's not the same for everybody. Everybody is a case-by-case situation. However, those negative messages are pervasively next to us, remind us in different settings, in different situations, in different contexts. They are there subconsciously. They follow us. They tell us what to do, how to feel about ourselves. And even at the highest level of accomplishment and success and all of that, we don't feel good. We don't feel emotionally good. We feel that there is something missing.
Right.
Right. So that's the small t trauma. When we talk to with our clients, and they experience their life stories, we see how much pervasive traumas, small t traumas, have been more damaging to them than, for example, if they recently had a car accident. Right. So that's the biggest damage. We have seen that realistically, large T traumas, they come and go, and people, for the most part, they are able to do something about them. But when things are pervasively uh, have been with us, and they have been deepened in our brain, they have been deepened in our mind, there is a much harder time and more challenge to work with them. But it's doable, thankfully. It takes time, it takes longer time, but they're absolutely doable.
Right. Absolutely. And so when you're talking about small T traumas and small T traumas, starting oftentimes starting in childhood, like how many times were you as a female traumatized, because your brothers were allowed to do things that you weren't?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like I said, the order of birth and the gender, and then the positioning of the siblings within family. That's our, perhaps, if not the initial small T traumas, but they are part of that, right? So yes, when we see different treatment between boys and girls, because of their gender, you stop and think about yourself. So, am I bad as a female? Am I supposed to be shameful because I'm a female? Right? Is that mean that my brother, he it's a male, so men are superior? So we start shaping and deciding what to believe, what works for me within this context, and we start to form our beliefs. Right. And therefore, that's the start part of, based on the example you just mentioned, that how am I going to feel about my femalehood? How am I going to feel about manhood? Right? How do I position men in my life, and how do I position myself in the context of relationship, right, with a man, right? So these are all, the result of those early messages that they have gone unnoticed, they have gone untreated, and we stay with our original belief. When I was 4 years old or 5 years old, how I felt about my femalehood and how I felt about manhood, right? Still, I operate based on that if I didn't recognize it.
Well, yeah, and of course we don't recognize it because it's sort of like
normal.
Well, it's normal. It's like a fish swimming in water.
Yeah.
The fish doesn't know it's in water, right? And this is the way I was treated, and I didn't think anything about it, but it affected me,
right?
And continues to affect me.
Yeah, I mean, when we are unhappy, we need to understand what makes me unhappy. Okay, and then we can trace it back until we get to the source, versus reaching out for the joint of marijuana.
Exactly. And also I want to say, we are in a quick fix society.
Right. Oh yeah.
And so I think, we're technologically very advanced, I think, in terms of the world, and in terms of culture. We have a very high level of technology. We have central air conditioning. The majority of people have cars. We work, and we're able to buy the things that we need. So technologically, we have a lot going for us. But emotionally, and in terms of understanding how we impact each other, that I think we're still not able to understand the power that that a parent can have with a child, that a boss can have with an employee, and even our own power in relationships that a husband can have with a wife, or a wife with a husband. We don't understand how powerful we are, and the effects that we have on people.
Exactly.
We don't understand, for example, how as children, when we saw our parents fighting, that we made a decision at that time that this is the way men and women relate. And so we now, as adults in intimate relationships, find ourselves fighting, and we don't think anything of it. We think, oh, well, this is just the way it is, right? Or we're in an adult relationship and we saw our parents not touching each other, So we get in this later on. We become in a relationship, and we don't touch. There's no physical connection. There's no holding. There's no holding hands. There's no touching the other person's arm or leg. We don't do that because we didn't see it happening.
I mean, these are very important. What we see, we can, connect with. What we don't see, we think is normal, so we continue that way.
And we don't know until it comes up. We don't think about it because all of this information is stored deeply in our subconscious and in our unconscious. There are 3 levels to the mind: the conscious, the subconscious, and the unconscious. So the conscious is where most people are living, and many people believe that that's all that there is. So they believe that they make decisions based on, they process it, in the moment, and they make a decision, and that's all that happens. They don't realize that the other 2 levels, the subconscious and the unconscious, are at work, and they are all, and those 2 parts of our brain are always feeding us information at a feeling level or at a thought level that impairs our ability to make a conscious decision. Only when we take into consideration what our subconscious and unconscious are doing, then we're taking into consideration all the aspects of our mind, and then we can make a decision that is more appropriate and complete for us.
Exactly.
So what is the subconscious? The subconscious is the part of us that, if I tell you something, for example, if I tell you, you cook a chicken just like your mother used to, and you've been just cooking that chicken without being aware that you cooked it like your mother, but as soon as I tell you that, you go, oh yeah, you relate to it, right?
Yeah.
And you're able to see it. That's part of what the subconscious is. It's something that if someone tells you this, the light bulb goes on, and you go, oh yeah. The unconscious is something that's so deeply buried that if I tell you you cook the chicken like your mother cooked it, and it's in your unconscious, you don't remember ever your mother cooking it like that, and so you go, what are you talking about? And that's the deepest level of our brain. And both the subconscious and the unconscious are there to inform us so that we can make better decisions for us. But since most people don't know that they exist or are influencing them, they can't do anything about it.
Right. And it's interesting when I discuss this with my clients, they say, what are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Well, how am I supposed to dig into my unconscious? Why do I want to do that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And of course, the more that and so psychotherapy is helping people deal a lot with the subconscious and somewhat with the unconscious as well. So you may say to somebody, I think this is accurate about you. This is from what I've seen. This is what's going on. The person may not relate to it, but then 3 sessions later, they come in and they go, I've been seeing what you said, even though I didn't see it before. It may take a while for it to surface.
Yes. Yeah, and that's exactly what I tell my clients. I said, you may not remember it now, but a week from now, 10 days from now, a month from now, you're going to remember it. So it's like we put in the light bulbs on until they can see it not in a shadow anymore, but in a bright light. That how their past and their messages and everything are haunting them today, some in a good way, some in a negative way, and the negative ones are the small T traumas.
So
and the impact of them.
We've only got a couple of more moments, and I want to say one more thing, which is that anybody who walks into a therapist's office, I think of as courageous.
Oh yeah.
Because they're saying there are things that are happening in my life that not only don't I know how to handle well, but I'm going to trust somebody else to help me with. And these are things which are emotional things, and they're things that, because they're emotional, it's very difficult for somebody to walk in and say, okay, I'm going to trust you to help me with my emotions, because emotions are very powerful. And so it is very courageous. And I say majority of people will never step foot in a therapist's office. And those who do, most people don't even come back. Most people go for 1 or 2 sessions and that's it. The people who stay in therapy and really work on themselves are the people who are the most courageous, and they get the most benefit out of that. And of course, it depends on what it is you're working on. And if you're working on something that's been a lifelong struggle for you, and you're diligent, you can uncover the reasons. And when you see something, the fact that you see it already is change.
Right.
Because we cannot know something and then act in the old way anymore.
Right.
Once we know something, and when I say know, that means our intellect and our emotions are in agreement. We're not conflicted about it. Once we know something, then we will act in accordance with it.
It's like when we don't know how to swim, we don't step into the water, or we just step into the water and do nothing. But once we know how to swim, once we get to the water, we automatically swim.
We dive in.
We dive in.
Right. Yeah, it's no longer the unknown, and it's no longer scary.
Exactly, and that stays with us. This kind of a practice. Once you learn how to swim, you're not going to forget it anymore.
Right. Absolutely. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess we got our signal. I'm not sure we got. I heard something, but I don't know.
I'm not sure if we got our signal either. Right. Oh, yeah. We just got a yes. Yes.
Okay.
So we are definitely out of time. We want to thank you so much for spending your hour with us, and we hope that you will join us next Thursday at 3 p.m. for another episode with Dr. Mitra about relationships and sexuality. Next Friday morning with me. And remember, until then, all you need is love. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.